Here we go. Okay, great.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get to it. Let me just, okay. Well, hello, everybody. We haven't done a webinar in a long time, so this is super fun for us. It's great to be able to get community from around the country. So we're not just in our little silos, that we can meet people from elsewhere. I would love for everyone who joins to just put in the chat where you're from, just say, hi, I'm Sally, and where you're from, what the industry that you work in, and what the weather's like today, because I'm sad it's gloomy here in San Francisco. So what's new? It's almost summer. We'll go with that. Hi, Haley. I know you, one of our volunteers in the Colorado market. And we'll allow for some Q&A too. So what we're going to do today is have a great webinar and tips on how to organize your home or someone else's home in a zero waste fashion. So you're going to learn about that in just a minute with these two fabulous experts. But first, I'm going to share just something that's important to us, which is to tell you a little bit about the GFDA. So slideshow, there we go. Just a couple quick slides here to let you know if you're not familiar with the GFDA, but we are on a mission. We're a design and build professionals to reduce the industry's harmful impact on the planet. And we're one of the few cross-discipline organizations that brings together everyone on the value chain of remodeling and building, which is architectures, interior designers, manufacturings, renovation and recycling services, because everybody has a role in tackling this wicked problem head on. As it is in our name, we are the good future, and we believe, as the Native Americans did, that we are not inheriting the earth, we are borrowing it from our children and future generations. So that's why it's imperative that all of us that work in the industry try really hard to make a positive impact on our environment. Why do we care about this? Well, just in the US, in each year, we toss enough furniture away to furnish one-bedroom apartments for nearly 9 million people. A lot of the furniture in landfills, believe it or not, is less than 15 years old. Each year, just in the US, textiles discarded from furniture manufacturing could wrap the earth about 10 times.
No.
If you if you factor in textiles from clothing, it's enormous and even worse. And then there's the amount of waste created from construction. It's over 600 million tons. That's just in the US, just each year. And just to put that in a little perspective, the US is 4% of the global population. We're still a pretty small country relative to India and China. But we make up 25% of the global waste problem. And
Wow.
90% of that is from demolition. And oops, sorry about that. And C&D waste contributes 40% to global carbon emissions. So that leads us all into, like, is there a connection between our waste stream, our habits as designers, and health and climate change? And the answer is a resounding yes. And the reason for that is three things. Landfill pollution. I don't know if you saw on the news today, there is an enormous landfill in India that is burning out of control and spewing toxic gases in the air. This is not uncommon, sadly, and part of that is because of the amount of gases that they produce, which we'll get to in a sec. But landfills produce, basically pollute our our soil, water, and air, and you don't have to live near one to be affected by it. Then there's plastics and toxins in our materials. We dump 10 million tons of plastic in our oceans every year. And what people don't realize is that we get 50% of our oxygen from our oceans. So if we are destroying the plant life, you no doubt heard about the coral reef bleaching that's going on. Temperatures are rising, the pH is changing in the oceans. This is creating havoc with our marine life, which is vital to our survival as well. And then, of course, we have CO2 and methane gas. CO2 from manufacturing and from shipping, of course, contributes to air pollution. And then there's methane coming from decomposing landfills and any organic waste, including lumber, right? And so this is creating a bigger problem because methane is 84 times more effective in absorbing the sun's heat than CO2. And then concrete alone accounts for 8% of the world's CO2 emissions. So you can see we have a big role in the amount of waste that we are producing. And so that's why, as an organization, we champion all these steps, which is reducing our waste footprint and keeping furniture out of landfills, but also reducing the amount of toxic chemicals in manufacturing and in all the materials that we're specifying. Lowering greenhouse gas emissions, of course, and energy and water savings, and then curtailing our natural resource depletion. This is why reuse is an important part of our strategies, which we have many folks in our membership that are in that era. 35% of waste can be attributed to decisions that were made during the design phase. This is pretty important to know because that is before a hammer has been swung. All the decisions that architects and interior designers can definitely affect a large portion of how much waste or energy that we have or carbon footprint on a project. Rework, sadly, is 30% of all construction in general and a major cause of waste. So rework is when somebody does something wrong and it has to be pulled out and done over, when somebody changes their mind just because they didn't like it. Sadly, that contributes a lot of waste. So we have an opportunity between the decisions we make at the beginning of a project and trying to avoid problems later on to have an impact on our waste stream. So in closing, sustainable design in practice really doesn't have to be hard or be daunting. Any step that you take, whether you're going to buy a vintage piece or reuse something from the home, refinish the floors, all those types of things, buying local, those are strategies that always help with reducing your footprint on a project and on the planet. Every little step adds up. So that's why we say a little by little, a little becomes a lot. And we hope you embrace that. So if anybody is interested in learning more about the environment, there's a QR code here. You can also reach out to me or go to the GFDA.com and explore all the membership options. We do like to do more educational webinars and a lot of live events depending on the market. And we're starting to grow into other markets as well. So that's my little commercial. Thank you for sitting through that. Without further ado, we have a big group growing now. That's wonderful. I'm going to introduce our stars here for today. Lauren West, principal and owner of Next Highest Good, Zero Waste Organizing, and Jeannie Fraise, who's our principal designer of Lotus Bleu Design. So Lauren, I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourself and a little question for you. What led you, like what life experience led you to wanting to do something that was good for the planet or embrace that as part of your profession?
You want me to go first? Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. And thank you to Catherine for organizing this. And to Jeannie, we've worked together in many capacities. This is a new fun foray of something we get to do together. My name is Lauren Winters West, and I am the CEO and founder of Next Highest Good Professional Organizing. We are professional organizers that specialize in what we call zero waste, which means finding the highest and best use for all the things our clients no longer want, need, or use. So I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that, but I just want to mention right now that what we call it is rehoming. I love that umbrella phrase that encompasses donating, giving away, recycling, upcycling, all the things fits under that nice umbrella of rehoming. It really boils my blood when I hear people say, get rid of it, or now it's junk, called the junk hauler. Why is it junk? Just because you don't now want it. It feels like insulting to the thing. I know we're going to talk a lot about all the ins and outs of what we mean by zero waste organizing. I'm happy to share all our tips and tricks. To me, it's important that we reframe the way we engage with our stuff. And I have learned over the 7 years we've been in business, myriad organizations that will take your stuff, ways to rehome it, and I'm happy to share all of it. If there's something we don't cover here, please reach out to me directly. It's it's fun for me if I don't know the answer to do the research. So I'm happy to do that. And I'm sure there'll be contact details at
Great.
the end.
Thank you, Lauren.
What called me? Do you want me to answer that question now? What
Mhm.
called me to, I think it was from when I was a young kid. I always, I remember this time in high school. I think that I was with some kids in a car. I don't even think I could drive. I was with the other kids, and he threw a bag of some of the kids in the car threw a bag of garbage out the window, and I was like, "What?" Like incensed. I couldn't believe it. And I remember that's as far back as I can get in my memory of just being really kind of fascinated about trash and garbage. And then throughout my career, it's a long story, but I'll keep it super short. Um, I've had a lot of different steps along my career. Now I feel like this is it and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But before this, I was working in a nonprofit. Before that, I was working in corporate America. And before that, I was in film production. So I've been like all over the place, and always have had a passion for the waste and the thing. I'm the person at the barbecue that's like picking the cans out of the trash and going, come on, guys, we can do better. Let's set up a system here. So I think it's just super deep for me. It's always been something that I care deeply about, not only the environment, but trash in particular. It's like what I do when I'm in a bad mood. I do it all the time anyway. I just came from a hike this morning at Land's End picking up garbage with my little grabbers. But if I'm in a foul mood, I will intentionally go out and pick up garbage. I can't
Okay,
explain it more than that.
we're going to try to make you really angry today, so you'll go out and pick up some more garbage. Jeannie, how about you? Tell us your story quickly, and then we'll get right to the tips.
Sure, sure. Hi, I'm Jeannie Fraise. I started my career, I was working as a curatorial assistant at a museum, and I bought a Victorian that I'm sitting in now in the Mission in San Francisco. And I was trying to renovate it myself with a neighbor as a contractor. And I was really interested in trying to reuse. I was like taking doors off, taking hardware, and I was so surprised how much people waste, or how much the contractor was like, let's just use new trim, or let's not, why do you need to use those lock sets? And I was like, these are so beautiful. And so it started with that. And then I also had been given some old furniture from my parents and my grandparents, and I loved reupholstery. And I opened up a shop pretty soon after that that was in Hayes Valley. And one of our main things was reupholstering old pieces. And we even started looking for eco fabrics way back at that time. There were very few options out there, but we did have them. And I started to, with my high-end interior design clients, to show them materials. And I was often frustrated that the people who actually could purchase them, again, there were limited options 20 years ago. Now there are a lot more of tiles and whatever. They'd be like, I'm going to choose the other thing. So it became something that I was concerned about, of how I could educate my clients. I also have a market where I collect and sell vintage textiles and sustainably made textiles by artisans that are using crafts that are towels and blankets that last for 20 years. So how we can fill our, use in our designs, beautiful things that are already out there and have a history and keep artisan traditions alive. And that leads me to how I met also Lauren, when I, about four years ago, went to redo my house after, doing it when I was very in the beginning of my career. And I was like, I needed to organize it. And I'd worked with my clients before, and I find you can do sustainable design when you start from the beginning. Like Catherine was saying, it's in that early design decision phase. If you can, and I believe that beautiful spaces are that way when you plan well and you have a space for everything. So I have clients where I can design a beautiful space, and if there isn't a place for everything, when I go away 3 months later, it could be chaos. But so if we can work early on to make good decisions about what you have, how you're going to reuse it, and organize it well, I found that you can have a beautiful design, have a place for everything, and not have a lot of waste. And working with Lauren, I learned so much, and I'm excited to share that.
Great. That's great. I'm just showing some images from Jeannie's work. As you can tell, I've never seen a medicine cabinet look that good before. Certainly not in
Lauren
my
did
house.
that. Lauren did, these are all of my own house. And I'm opening some of my closets, like if you can see behind me, that yoga closet, like that's right behind there. And she's been in every closet, and my mudroom is right around the corner.
It's so beautiful, Jeannie. You did such a great job. I love it.
I want to start in a sense on some questions because so explain. So the first part of this is going to be about how can we as individuals take some tips from you, Lauren, about how to approach a project in our own house. It's sometimes very difficult for us to get rid of our own things. And then we'll transition to how to work with, we have a lot of interior designers on the call, how to and when to hire a person like yourself to help organize and what that process is like, because then you're now dealing with your clients, their time and their possessions, and trying to encourage them along this way. So anyway, in terms of, why don't you define zero waste organizing? Isn't it all organizing just the same, or how would you define it?
That's a good question. The way that we define it is that very little goes to landfill. The only things that are deal breakers are mold, particle board furniture beyond reuse. Actually, down on my block the other day, there was a piece of particle board furniture on its end and it's all chewed up. And I was like, I'm gonna take a picture. This is gonna be an Instagram post of why you should buy particle board furniture, among other reasons. So mold, particle board furniture, and sometimes hairbrushes. I don't know what to do with hairbrushes, although we can donate partially used cosmetics and toiletries. That is fine. A lot of things that people throw out because they're like, who's going to want that? And that's what I'm hoping to share with you all today, that there are myriad resources for places who will take those things that you think, who's going to want that. But off the top of my head, those three things are definitely garbage. I don't know what to do with used hairbrushes, moldy things, or particle board furniture. But otherwise, other than that, we can take all the different streams, rehoming streams. I think I mentioned this to you the other day. I went through and counted how many different ways we can, different streams, I'm going to call them streams, rehoming streams. And it was like close to 70.
Wow.
So you think about, like, I'll give you an example. Think about a expired medicine. Mm-hmm. So the medicine can go one place. I'm seeing those bins in our pharmacies, like my local Walgreens has one now. Expired meds can go one place. The actual container can go, and it can go in your recycling bin, and that's totally fine. But we have a collection going downstairs because there's someone that actually takes the medicine bottles and uses them for something, I guess, for more medicine. And then medical supplies like crutches or a boot or something like that can go to another place called Recares. They have different locations, but we do the one in San Francisco. And I'm going to mention a lot of different places here. We do have a resource guide, so don't feel like you need to scribble things down, or feel free to email me if you didn't catch it. So that's what we mean by zero waste, is literally it doesn't go in the landfill. There's a place it can go to its either highest and best use or to be responsibly disposed of.
Yeah. Jeannie, do you have anything to add to that? Do your clients that you work with embrace the notion that we can organize responsibly, or do they think that everything should just be tossed?
Well, it's been kind of a, I've been learning how to educate my clients. So it's like the statistics that you have. And often when I can share some of the places that things can go, I love to work with Make It Home Bay Area, which I'm sure many of the interior designers here know about. I have 2 adopted children, and And Carolyn started with helping foster kids who are aging out of the foster care system get set up in homes. And what I love about what she does, of the things that are often donated from interior designers, all our waste from styling, from everything, which we all have. And I had I had 2 storage units after I closed my store that I held on to. And I felt really good unloading that, and knowing she puts it together for people, not just like donating a bed, she puts it together in a beautiful, colorful way that brings so much joy to these people. So when I can explain that to my clients, they're like, okay, I get that. There has been hesitation, like, well, you have to get it there. They're like, well, I don't want to spend $150. And it's like, well, you're going to have to spend $150 or whatever it is, less maybe lug, to get it to the dump. And so there have been some people that it's taken a while. But I think we were talking about that kind of trade-off of, having us help them, whether it's me helping them organize it to get it there, or encouraging them to hire someone like Lauren to get involved, because a lot of people just don't have that time to do it. Yes. And what I love about Lauren is that even for my own house, there was kind of like a setup time, and when she helped me, but then she also helped me set up systems moving forward that I can use. So like in my garage now, I have like different bins now that I know the certain things, like things that could be for art supplies are in a certain bin that could be for scrap, building kind of things are in another bin. I have like obviously things for clothing, electronics that maybe can't be used, but I started a system so that it's easier, and so things don't get chaotic in my house, and I can keep things going. And then, yes, I can call her to help if I can't get it to those places, or I don't know which one she thinks is the best, then I can call her and she can come and pick it up.
I think you guys mentioned that not everything is donatable. And is that a common misconception or perception from clients? They just think anything can go, and they just randomly would donate them. So how, as a professional, would you guide them and educate them in that realm? Because if things are not all donatable, to your point, Lauren, a professional knows how to discard things appropriately without just throwing away. Unfortunately, a lot of places that do take donations end up throwing away an awful lot of what they take in, right? So I would think another benefit of zero waste organizers like yourself, Lauren, and with the expertise and guidance of an interior designer, that you're educating your clients that, hey, this can be donated, this probably can't, so we're going to find another way to recycle it or find a place. Can you guys talk about that a little bit? Lauren,
Lauren, you go.
Yeah. Well, this is why I love the word rehoming, because I feel like donate has become this like generic, like it's like saying get rid of it, just donate it. Well, and there was a great article, was it on NPR's? It was called Goodwill Doesn't Want Your Broken Toaster. And I think I love that, because it's like, if you're saying you don't want it, when we work with clients, we literally have 2 bins, or one that's like, if you want to keep it, put it here, and if you don't want it, put it here. And in the don't want, we're sorting for, Jeannie mentioned scrap. Many of you hopefully will know about scrap, the Creative Reuse Center, and I'm learning they're ones nationally.
Ooh. Make sure we all mute our if you're not speaking. Thank you.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Dennis, can you mute him?
I got a post op.
He doesn't know.
Dennis, you're on. We can hear you. Can you mute? I'll just mute him.
Do you have the power? Do you have the power, Catherine?
I got him.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So yeah, scrap is a creative reuse center, and Jeannie, I love that you have the sections in your garage. And building supplies can go to Urban Ore in the East Bay, or building resources here in San Francisco. I keep pointing over here because I live out by the ocean. Everything is that way. And actually, I just learned that they got bought by the reuse people, which is really interesting. And I think this will be Yeah, and they're a member of the GFDA, and that'll be interesting for building resources. So yeah, I really like the phrase rehoming because I feel like that's much better than donate. And you want to think about the things that are going in terms of and then also these other rules of thumb are like, would you offer it to someone that I've heard like your mother-in-law or somebody that's just a little bit like, your child's teacher or something, like somebody that's just a little bit of distance from you. You're not going to say like, do you want this?
Yeah.
Broken chair. However, with that said, and I'm happy to elaborate this more either now or further on in the conversation, there are people that will take everything. I mean, I'm continuously shocked about how you can post on the buy nothing groups, which is like a huge tip that I hope everybody takes away. If you don't know about the buy nothing groups, it's a global movement. You find your local community and you can post things on there from extra lemons from your tree to a beautiful piece of furniture that maybe needs some repair, but you're not going to do it. And Facebook Marketplace, of course, for free. And there's Nextdoor. The other secondary benefit to a buy nothing or a Nextdoor or even Facebook Marketplace is that you get to know your neighbors. Like they come by with their dog and you're like, I recognize that dog. And the next time you see them, and I've seen this happen again and again.
You bring up a really good point because I think there's this thought that trying to rehome or donate things just takes time and money and it's just a hassle. And but I have gotten rid of things literally immediately just by posting them for free. At some point there's diminishing returns in terms of trying to take photos of something and trying to get $30 out of something. I would say unless it's $100 value or more, probably not worth your time as a professional, your client's time as a professional. I'm sure these people make hundreds of dollars an hour, and do they really want to spend the time trying to sell something? So when you post things for free, Jeannie, I'll let you answer that in a sec, then it's very easy to get rid of things. You'd be surprised how people will come out of the woodwork. Yeah, I'll sometimes get it done faster. Jeannie, you wanted to add to that?
I think there's two things I think that we have in our culture, like this idea that we should get paid for all of our stuff. And, we used to have like sidewalk sales and that, yes, all your junk is valuable. And that's like a hard thing to break. And people need to realize, especially now with all the waste, and then we're also responsible for where it's going next when we're consuming it. So that's something that I definitely try, with my clients to educate them on. And sometimes I would make the recommendations and they don't take them. And sometimes I'm working with someone for a long time and I've had people who, tried to do it themselves and they spent hours and hours and, got their stuff to designer consignment and whatever and all that. And then, ended up with like $100 and, adding up the amount of time they spent to photograph, to send, to organize someone to pick it up, all that. They realized in the end, like, oh, Jean, the next time around, they're like, can you tell me about that Make It Home Bay Area again?
Right. Well, that
yeah.
also leads us to another thing that I think is on the minds of a lot of designers too, is that you want to be able to make it easy for your clients to dispose of things. That's why they hire professionals. So, and they may not think of the discarding of items or the disposing of items as important to have a professional. But if you think about what you just said, the amount of time they would have to deal with it, and even if they wanted to just hire Got Junk to come get it, they're still going to have to pay for that. So it sounds like what you guys are saying is that build it into the price of the job, right? Build it into the remodel or to whatever you're working on with them, because somebody has to come pick it up, and either it'll be a person doing it for free on their own, or you should just have a line item for disposal. And if you can work with a professional like Lauren, they just make it so stress-free, right? There is a question that somebody put on the chat, which I'm happy to surface now, because Lauren, you kind of mentioned it earlier about materials, right? Some of our materials, even samples that interior designers have. Like, where do they go? And then if you're doing things with a customer, the question specifically is, what advice when adding a new custom closet, kitchen cabinets, or custom vanity for a client? They're often made of particle board and veneer, which isn't so eco-friendly. And solid wood is very expensive. So I mean, that's more of a designer question, I think, rather than a waste question. But when you're trying to get rid of particle board, that is a problem, right, Lauren?
Yes. Yes. Particle board is a problem.
Mhm.
Full stop.
Yeah. So try not to. Well, there are places that you can get vintage cabinets and also refurbish them too. So that's why solid wood is a better choice overall. So if it's a price issue, there are other materials, and you don't want to buy an IKEA kitchen. Having lived through one, I can tell you they do fall apart. That there's a possibility. There are some organizations that have donated cabinets that are solid wood that could be refinished if you want to get into that. I would think, though, that a custom cabinet maker could probably do a pretty good job, or some system companies too have pretty good prices on things. So that's my 2 cents. I'm not the designer. Jeannie, you might have some thoughts on that.
Yes. I mean, I think, you know, that's a tough point. Sometimes with clients, I encourage them to, like, we make an overall design scheme and then we like do it in phases so that they could invest in something that is better made, that is better for the environment, that's going to last longer for them and actually be more beautiful too. You know, to do that. Or if it's more like an interior of a closet, there's obviously systems that are like an alpha system that's like a metal system that wouldn't have that kind of particle board component. Yes. I was going to say one of the other things when you were talking about that, I think also having it in the beginning of your project, this, like, it's not just about the waste to help for clients. I think it's also about the organization, that it's going to turn out better. Because if we don't know, so I like to, when I'm designing for my clients, it's not only asking them, you know, that they'll come and be like, I want to help with this room layout. I want to know what furniture to get. And I might have, it's like looking, okay, so what do you have? What do you like to use? And what are we going to have to store at the end of this? And so when I can open up their closets with them and be like, you know, what is, and a lot of times people's spaces aren't working because they aren't well organized. And that hasn't been a part of the process. So if someone like Lauren can come in early on, and Lauren, we just did a project for a client that was a very sustainable project. It was a client that I'd done their house 15 years ago, and Lauren knows them too. And we came back together and we did a renovation after their 3 kids went to college and had their house had been heavily used, an active family. And we did, you know, made choices for reupholstery, repurposing. We used Revital East, which is a wonderful organization here in the Bay Area that helps repurpose furniture that turns beautifully. So something like an old vanity, they could paint it for you, do all this stuff. And we made a plan, Lauren and I did, and it was so helpful to the client. And it made it, you know, so it helped them understand a little bit better, like, oh, at the end, then not only is my stuff going to go to a good place, but all the stuff that I have is going to have a place, and I can see what it all is and make sure, do I still want that? What am I using and what am I not using? And just taking that time for the conversation, it saves so much on the other end. You're going to be so much happier when you open up your kitchen cabinets and you have everything you love and need, and not like, oh God, why did I, you know, why is that cabinet filled with all this, excuse me, but crap that I don't, you know, I've never used, and, you know, it bothers me.
I'm going to share this slideshow again really quickly because some people joined a little bit later, but just to show how beautifully you organize things. And so we talked about this in our prep call about what are the long-term benefits of having a really well organized home. That has something to do with, yes, you can find things always, but a little bit later, you know, what if when kids outgrow things, or what are we teaching children about organizing?
Well, I think, and I what Lauren, you should speak too, but what Lauren's helped me do with my children, And I was, now they're teenagers, but you know, there's those phases where you go through a lot of stuff. I'll just point out this cabinet, this one red one here, like that was like funky space in Victorians. We live in a Victorians have terrible closets or no closets.
That was
And,
really,
and this was over the years. Like my house been over 20 years. Like I couldn't do all these things right in the beginning. That was like maybe 8 years ago. Like I've had to wait and do things along. That was this weird space under the thing. For a while, I had funky furniture kind of solving it for my entry. And then, you know, I had saved and it was time that I could do that. But I think for children, when not only it's chaotic when they can't find things and you can't find things. And then when my kids have had to go through, we've had to go through and kind of weed out things, then they can see the things that they really care about and like, you know, and then they have like on their shelves and whatever. And then I think it makes them think a little bit more about what they have and appreciate it more. And yeah, that's what I've seen.
and I think it cuts down on chaos too,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Where
Yeah,
you see your kids at a very early age, your toys go here, your shoes go here, your coat goes here. And if they get in the habit as a child, they'll take that into adulthood. So I think it does set a good example for kids to just like, this is the way it is. Like chaos is not the norm. I want to get to a
Yeah.
question that I think is probably on everybody's mind, which is how do you get clients to part with things? Sometimes that's very hard, right? And so, Lauren, why don't you, since you work with clients more, tell me what you
yeah.
encounter and what are some of your strategies?
It always cracks me up. It's usually my friends that will say this, or maybe I'll see a client and they'll like, "You'd be so proud of me. I got rid of so many things." And I'm like, "But I'm not the one standing there and saying you should get rid of it." In fact, we never say that. What we do is like, let me think of a design thing. Like before a renovation, for example, thinking of the client that Jeannie was referencing before, they were doing refinishing cabinet faces and flooring. So we had to take everything out of their kitchen. So we said, let's look at what you have in here. You know, if you don't look at the stuff, you're always bringing stuff into your house. And if you don't take the time to periodically, regularly, whatever feels right to you, look at what's there and thin things out, then it just accumulates. So let's look at what you have in the cabinets. You were saying, Jeannie, a bunch of crap. I was thinking a bunch of takeout containers. Like everybody always has loads of that stuff, like the utensils, the chopsticks, all that stuff, and the plastic containers. Like, let's look at it all and decide what you want to keep so that when we unpack you, you have the right volume for yourself. I mean, for your family. I never will tell anybody what to get rid of. What we do is just show them what they have and make suggestions. Okay, you have, I don't know why a lot of people have those peelers, like a potato peeler. For some reason, people have multiples of those. I'm like, there's 4 of these. You know, one looks like it was for little kid hands. Now your kids are grown. And
Do
it
you
goes with
really
this other
need-
little chopper thing. You know, let's put that over here. That's super cute. And then one looks like it has a dull blade, and then you have one with a serrated blade and one with a straight blade. Like, how often do you use these? Oh, never, or all the time. You know, we each need one. Okay, so here's a suggestion. And then clients, I think that something in the process and the inquiry that I can just watch. I've been doing this so long, I can tell in their body language if it's like overwhelming or like, yeah, I'm ready to, I don't know why I have so many of those, or that somebody left here, or whatever the story is for the thing. And then they make the decisions themselves.
Yeah,
It's just laying it all out.
Yes, you're real. So it's like having, you know, when Lauren, she brings like folding tables and it's like spread out. When you actually like see it all and you have someone, we have such loaded, you know, our items have like all these things that it's very hard to make decisions ourselves. I can do it for other people, but having Lauren there, it just made it more like, okay, like, and you said a beautiful thing. What was it about the gifts thing that people are like, yeah.
Yeah.
What was
The
that
gift,
again?
a gift, the transaction, I hate the word transaction, but it gets the message through really quickly. The transaction of a gift is complete once it's been received. So I give you something and now you're holding this thing and you're like, I don't want this, but I feel bad because Aunt Sue gave it to me. Aunt Sue's happy. She saw you receive it. So do what you want with it. You know, and I think that's a lot of it, is that we give people permission. Like, that's great. You know, even like something super tender, the Afghan that so-and-so made. Well, you have two of them and one of them's in really great shape. Maybe the other one wants to go to scrap for someone to make something out of or love it.
And knowing like what you're going to find a place for it, or someone that's going to really appreciate it. That's what I love. Even looking at like make at home areas like Instagram, you can see, sometimes I see things we've donated in some of the spaces they show for people.
Me too.
You see a family or, you know, a little kid with their first like own bed, and you see the pillow on it, whatever. Like, I mean, I don't mean to be corny, but like gives me chills. Like it makes it like, wow, like that will bring someone else joy, not like the junky broken thing. I'm not saying, but like, you know, that thing that you're like, oh, but they gave it to me. But if it doesn't fit, it's not your color, you don't love it, why are you just keeping it in your closet? Like that's not
right.
But knowing that you're going to find a place, Lauren, because Lauren knows all these places.
Yeah.
Or you try yourself, and you can, because she can give
right.
you yourself tips.
I'd like to
it
add
also,
oh,
sorry. It also frees up metaphoric space. Like,
right.
have a thinking of an Afghan or something, like that takes up a good bit of space. It's like, okay, great. Now I can actually put like the beach towels in here, which is always so annoying when we have to go dig for them or whatever the thing is.
Right.
And then I want to tell this really cute story about this quilt that a client's sister made for her. And she was like, it was worn. And she was like, I don't know what to do with it. I was like, okay, well, take a picture of it. Great idea. She took a picture of it. And then a friend, a colleague, an acquaintance that I know takes quilts and makes things out of them. So she came and picked it up here at my house. And I was like, please, you have to send a picture with what you make of this, because client will be delighted. And there's so many stories like that.
Well, you're both bringing up excellent points. I want to add to that. One is, as you know, you as a professional organizer, Lauren, this is a value to designers, is you can spend, as a designer, you can spend all the time you want, hours and hours trying to find all the resources to dispose of things. Or it's probably worth the money, especially if it's a big house or a big family or big remodel, to go with a professional organizer who's already spent her profession bringing these enormous list of resources. So they know where all this stuff can go, and you'll feel good about it and might even be able to please a family in need. One of the other things I learned from, I think it was reading Marie Kondo's book, and which probably everybody has read by now, but this really helped me, because I had things from my grandparents and then my mother and all of this, and it's like most of it didn't go with my style, but I felt very sentimental about that. And I think a lot of clients and all of us probably have issues with that. But she brought up a really great way, kind of to what you were saying earlier, Lauren, about, you know, giving your clients permission to say it's okay to part with it because the gift was already given, and that was the joy that that person gave to you. The other way to look at it is how I've done it is when I'm struggling with like something I want to just give away, but still holding on to that sentimental value, is to thank the object for bringing you joy for that many years, right? And for that period of time in your life. And when you thank the object and you realize, you look back, you always have those memories or that feeling. But this gives you permission to say, you know what, now it's time to let it go to someone else. And I had that very personal experience with a chair that I was holding on from my grandmother that was a beautiful, country French style, did not go with my modern houseboat on the Sausalito when I moved. And I was struggling to part with it. I had it reupholstered a couple times and it just wasn't working. So I just sort of got in that headspace and said, you know what, I'm going to always remember my grandmother. I have a photo of her sitting in it, and I have enjoyed this for many, many years. And now it's time for somebody else to find. So when I put it on Nextdoor, sure enough, a bride wanted it because it worked with a party she was giving for her bridesmaids or whatever, engagement party or something like that. And she said it was a country French theme. And I thought, there we go. So it was a pay it forward moment that I really appreciated. We have another question that just popped in. So feel free, everybody, if you have a question for these two talented women. Lauren, I'm curious to hear what brands and styles you like to use for bins and containers. Is there anything specific? You mentioned Alpha storage from Container Store earlier. Any particular bins or styles or brands that you might think of?
Yes and no. We tend to use what clients already have as we're doing even if we're focusing on only one area of the home, where I always do a tour of everything, like show me everything you're willing to show me, because it's an ecosystem. If you have light bulbs and batteries in one place and them in another place, unless it really makes sense to have them in two different places, let's combine them. So as we're taking the tour, I'm always keeping an eye on, oh, there was a green bin in the bathroom and there was another one like that over there. So we kind of hunt and peck from what clients already have. And also I have a client tomorrow, and she knows this about us, and she said, I really need a bin. Well, the one I have is broken. Do you have any on hand? And I do, because we use them from one client to the next. If they're good products, still in good shape, I'm happy to pass them along at no cost to the next client. Happy because I don't want them here, but also they don't have to buy stuff,
right?
So if we do need to buy stuff. We had this really amazing project, and we actually bought the Marie Kondo, this was a couple of years ago now, bins that she had that looked so great in that kitchen, but they're wood, so I'm always looking for bamboo, for metal. I don't buy plastic for clients. I mean, if I have to, I'm trying to think if I've had to.
You can get so
Maybe
many reused items, even storage bins. If you look hard enough, that people give away everything from clipboards to storage bins. So if it's like for the garage or something, you could probably get something that's already been used. For new, I think what Bailey's probably asking about, like that beautiful storage that you showed, Jeannie, in some of your projects. Did you have things custom done, or do you have a particular brand or anything like that?
I mean, every time I'm doing a project, because I think organization helps it work, and I'm a color person, so we are always sourcing bins from kind of all over the place. And yes, we do. There's a lot of really great natural woven ones. I used to carry these Senegalese baskets at my shop when I had them. We use those a lot. A Land of Nod, which doesn't exist anymore, used to have these strapping baskets. I know they were made of plastic, but they just last forever, and you can clean them. And I think it was a recycled material, and you can look for that now. And Lauren even created a Container Store in my garage, because I cycle through things. She used them, and she was like, "Do you want me to take this?" I'm like, "No," because I had all different colors. And I'm telling you, I keep using them for a different thing. They have one, or like all the shoe boxes. Now our Warby Parker glasses. Every time I get glasses, I keep the little things for inside drawers. She's made me now think about how to use all those. So we save a lot more packaging now for the interiors of organization. And then for the exterior, when there's like those few things that really do add to the design, we're constantly sourcing. I don't think I have like one place, but all the kind of big box, Serena and Lily and West Elm have really good ones. A Container Store, and then we look for, there's more sustainable ones also. So
who's the Japanese company that starts with a Y, and they make beautiful things. There's a shoe rack that's gorgeous.
No, we use them. Karu's on this call. Karu, text me.
I can do a quick Google, but they make beautiful products. But just look for metal.
Yamazaki.
Thank you,
Karu.
Karu, please put it in the chat so we know, so that our designer friends here know. So
I think it's about the materials and the uniformity of the look. I mean, literally, I love that, Jeannie, I love your style, and I love that you're using Warby Parker boxes inside drawers. Like, I feel like that says a lot. And also iPhone boxes. I always gather them. iPhone, iPad. Those are great for organizing inside of drawers. Clean white look. They're uniform. They're great.
That's a good
but yeah, sure. Sometimes you have to buy stuff, and just avoid plastic.
Yeah. Um, is one of the strategies, Lauren, take us through a few of your tips. I know you have a tip guide or whatever. So if somebody was sort of, what are sort of the broad strokes or steps, if you want to share it with us? Because there's obviously, and just from my experience, you know, there's the things that you, this is, I think I also learned from Marie Kondo, the things you use every day are usually more front and center, right? And then there are the things that you use occasionally. And then there's the long-term storage things that are used rarely. So is there a process for deciding what goes where in that? And I think also part of what you were saying is that you ask clients, like, do you need 5 of these things if you're only using, you know, 2 on average a week or something like that? Is there a process to help? Is that part of the organizing? And does it go deeper in the house, or when you have things that are for the holidays versus, you know, every day versus the momentum?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy answer, but it's like, that's what we call like prime real estate. Sometimes people will have like something that they don't use very often, literally at arm's reach. I'm like, well, how often do you bake? Not very often. Once a year, never. I'm like, okay, well, let's move that stuff up here. Can you reach that? Do you have a ladder? It's so many questions we ask. Question after, I always warn people before we're there, like, have a good breakfast. If you do caffeine, don't skip it that day, because we've got a lot of questions for you. And then they're really involved in the, well, let me take you through an earlier, let me take a couple steps back. So we do a walkthrough. I'll have known what we're looking at before that, but on the day of the project, walk through with the team. I have a team of about 10 people that we don't work with everybody
They're
at one time, but like a
amazing.
team
They're
of
all
4.
amazing. They're the most lovely women. Oh my goodness. They
really
make you feel, I just have to say, they make you feel safe because you're inviting people into your home to see all your stuff. And it is like a very vulnerable thing. I've been through it, and like, yeah, they're all amazing. Okay,
Thank
sorry.
you so much. That sounds great. No, they are, and I'm grateful for them every single day. One of them is here right now helping me out with rehoming all of everybody's stuff. So we'll do a walkthrough with the team. They'll be keeping eyes out for matching bins here and there, and we will create a container store as we go. This is empty, that's empty. Here's what we have to choose from at the end of the day. And then we will categorize. We'll categorize our little hearts out. You know, I don't know. I'm thinking of a garage because that happens a lot, which is not so much you interior designers. I'm sorry, but it's such a great example and everybody can picture it. Automotive and biking and hiking and camping and kids stuff, and categorize everything. Clients come in and review. Don't want that. I've been looking for that. Is like, that's our joke every time. I mean, it happened the other day within 5 minutes. I was like, wow, we can go home now. You know, whatever all the categories are. And then once we've had a full purge, then we ask a lot more questions. Like, how often are you going camping? Do the bikes need to be accessible? Is there anything from inside the house that wants to come out? Do you have rehoming bins? Like Jeannie's got scrap and building resources, and this, like let's leave room for, if you're someone that receives and sends a lot of packages, let's leave room for that. So let's plan for reality, is what I call that. And then we're going to put it all back together. I actually have these 2 videos of a before and after where we moved a mountain in a garage last week, that I showed one of my colleagues, and I was like, just so delighted at it.
So the second step
I don't know
is
if that answers your question.
planning for reality is then, now let's look at the things we're using every day. Is that what you're talking about?
Right,
Done the
right,
purge,
exactly.
you've gotten rid of the duplicates and the unwanted items. And now it's like, okay, the rest of this is left. Now we're going to try to figure out what's used in what rooms, right? I'm assuming. And that would be the sort of second step. Is I like this plan for reality.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like, what do you want handy? Well, it'd be really great. My daughter comes to visit and this is the baby stuff. It'd be really great if that was accessible. Where before it was like up high and tucked away, or I'm like, actually, do we want to put that in the house? Maybe we want to keep that in the house. Yeah, that's a good idea. So it's just a thought partner and someone who, Jeannie sort of alluded to this, but I tell this to people all the time, the reason that it's much easier when you work with a professional organizer is that each person, as I look up, has a story. When it's your stuff, every little thing has a story. Oh, I got to take that to the library. I got to do that. To us, it's just stuff. It's junk mail, or it's pillows, or it's towels, or it's whatever. And so it's much easier to take a step back and walk somebody through it with an objective eye.
And may I say two things to that? Like, one thing, that you guys are doing it in, like, all that day. And so you think, and she kind of has different people focused on different areas. So they're really thinking well about, like, one person's working on, like, one child's closet. And then Lauren will kind of come and check in on them. Then they'll ask the client a few questions. And then they're, like, finding homes for things as they're doing it. So it's like, they're posting things on Facebook, marketplace. They're having people, like, come by that very day. It's like all happening. She's super efficient. Like, everyone is active. And then if you're more for, like, thinking about as an interior designer doing it, what we've done together is, like, I often have elevations of cabinets or photographs or architectural plans. And so what we do is we make a plan beforehand, and that helps. And so, Lauren's made, like, a spreadsheet of, like, this is where things are going to go. And so when it's like a kind of a bigger project, or often we're packing up before construction, and then you want it really efficient on the other end when she's unpacking. And so for an interior designer, that is kind of like the steps that you can do together to make it really efficient and work well.
That's a great point about making that spreadsheet or some sort of a document, especially if you are, moving out for a remodel and then coming back in. We are at the end of time. I just want to say a shout out for vintage, shopping vintage whenever possible. And Sabrina is on the call here from Walnut Creek and has a great store called Vintage. They're members of the GFDA, so check them out if you're in the East Bay. That's a great way of keeping things paying forward and the circular economy, which we all embrace. If anybody wants to join in with verbal, we got a couple seconds here, but if not, we thank you all for joining. We'll do a little follow-up with maybe some things that we can send to all of you that joined us today. And thank you for joining us. And if you want to learn any more from these two wonderful women, you can find us, and we'll send their contact information as well. And I'm sure they'd be happy to respond to your questions. Any parting words, ladies? Okay, well, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Through my third step there, make a spreadsheet and plan everything. So while you guys were talking, I was posting some tips along the way.
I know. Good on you. That was amazing.
Trying to listen and type at the same time, but
Wow.
Really appreciate it. And if anybody else has anything,
I guess my last thing would say, like, that sometimes clients, are hesitant to spend this time and money to do this, and they all are. In the end, after it's done, they're like, wow, it was so worth it. And the same for myself. I've experienced it as, a client myself of Lauren's and doing it for my clients. Then they learn and they appreciate, and they're like, oh my God, what a relief. So yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to that cost benefit analysis, right? That we talked about. It sounds like a nice to have, but I don't think it should be in part of my budget. But then it becomes one of those most important things that you spent your time and money on, whether they're paying the designer to help them or a professional organizer. If you yourself as designer can, learn some of these skills and help guide your clients, that's part of your professional service. And so I think it should be built into your fees or as part of the project. Just like you're going to do deconstruction on a house, that should be part of the line item under that part of the project. So on the grand scheme of things, in terms of what they're going to spend on a project, it's really small. So you really have to, again, flip the switch on the thinking there to get people to understand, look, This is going to be a little bit painful right now, the time and energy we have to put into this to organize you, but you are going to reap the benefits for years and years and years. Your house is always going to stay nice. Your kids are going to know where things belong. You can transition things to different parts of the house as the kids grow. You'll get to know the cycling of items, right? And then you'll get to know your resources too for when you do want to dispose or rehome things. That's our new favorite word. So anyway, I think we're just a minute over, but thank you all for joining today. And I hope you follow up with us and join the GFDA if you're not a member already. We'd love to have you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Catherine. Bye. Bye, Jeannie. Thanks.